की जात का पता नहीं, वो गन्ना की बात करता है।
ओए बड़े, ओए उग्रवादी!
मैं इस बिल को फाड़ता हूं, ये हिंदुस्तान को तोड़ने की कोशिश कर रहा है।
Truth and accountability has never mattered more than it does in today's time. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Jawab Dehi, where we present to you conversations and discussions that matter the most. This is your host, Shreya Kaul, and accompanying me today is a very important guest, Ms. Shaila Rashid. Ms. Shaila is a Kashmiri writer, researcher, and an upcoming author. A lot of you might have also recognized her as the former Vice President of the prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru University Students' Union, where she rose to prominence as an activist. Hi Shaila, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Our
Shreya.
pleasure. Shaila, talking about your book, which is going to be released around the corner, it's called Role Models.
That's right.
Could you please brief our audience regarding what the book is about, and how do you think the book is relevant to the current context?
Thank you for the question, Shreya. So my book, Role Models, it has a subtitle, Inspiring Stories of Indian Muslim Achievers. And it's the first of its kind book because I don't think there's been another book or there is another book in contemporary literature which talks about the positive aspects of the Muslim community. Often you are a media student yourself, and often what we see is only negative depictions of Muslims either in media or in popular culture. And we often say, when we talk about free speech, we often say that the response to a movie should be a movie, the response to a book should be a book. So the onus is upon us as Muslims to present our positive side. So we can complain about negative depictions of Muslims in the media, or we can put out our own discourse. So that's the contribution I hope to make.
So as you said, a response to a book is a book. Do you think this book is response to any book that you might have read? What inspired the making of this book?
Three things mostly. So since you asked what is it a response to, number one, when you talk about Hindi movies or Bollywood movies in general, you will see often what is the depiction of a Muslim typically, someone who's going on namaz and after that they are going to plan a terrorist attack. That is one depiction. The other depiction you've got is in media studios, TV studios, where there'll always be some Maulana who will be talking about Sharia, ki Hindustan mein Sharia hona chahiye, LGBT rights nahi hone chahiye, some of that stuff. Third, you'll see social media mein. Social media mein, for example, you see this term puncturewalas that is used for Muslims. These are all negative and stereotypical and derogatory, sort of depictions. But now the onus is upon us. We cannot keep complaining about how someone else is depicting us. The onus is upon us to depict our achievers, our role models.
Right, Shaila. So it's basically the shifting political scenario that we could say, the atmosphere that has become a little more Islamophobic, that has somehow inspired the release of the book.
You can say that. And what this book also does is there is also a sort of deeper motive, which is to promote upward mobility among Muslims, but also among others, because these are people whom Muslims could draw inspiration from, but also non-Muslims. So people of all communities, children of all communities, I want them to read this book and read about the struggles, the sheer struggles that people have gone through. So for example, Sania Mirza, she's one of the people who is profiled in the book. So her childhood struggles, she had to study 5 hours a day and she had to practice 7 hours a day, and at 17 she won her first Grand Slam title. Right. Or there is a para swimmer named Shams Alam. He's paraplegic, so he's disabled from the waist down, and how he has become the world #1 swimmer, para swimmer in 2 swimming events.
Right.
So the idea is to just inspire people to do better, because one of these goals that we are chasing is the goal of a Viksit Bharat by 2047.
Right.
So in Viksit Bharat, it won't be made on government intervention. The government can't make a Viksit Bharat. We have to make a Viksit Bharat. So we have to do our best. We have to, no matter what, struggle, discrimination, hurdle, illness, whatever comes our way, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So that's the message of the book.
Right, Shaila. As you talk about the positives that the Muslims have contributed to the Indian society, and we sure are very proud of that. But I happened to go through one of your opinion pieces that you wrote for the print,
Right.
where you talk about how Muslims should let go of their victimhood.
Yes.
Could you substantiate on that?
So thank you for the question again. It's a very important theme throughout the book. So throughout the book, you will come across stories of very inspiring people who've had their fair share of struggles. So even minus the discrimination. So if we are talking about discrimination, that is not the only struggle that you have to go through. You have to, struggle against your parents. You have to struggle, to be allowed to participate in something. As a girl, you have to struggle. The struggles are at many levels, but what does it take to be an achiever? It requires mental resilience, first of all. Now, the Ajk Committee report, there is one very important finding where it says that when they talked to people, they found out that Muslims believe that there won't be returns. So they don't actually, there is a lack of perceived returns from higher education. Whereas that's not the case. When Muslims get higher education, the returns are actually better, and even in UPSC Muslims do very well. So what is it? हमने अपने मन में बना लिया है कि there is discrimination, we are going to be discriminated. Yes, you are going to be discriminated against, लेकिन पहले आप उधर पहुँचो
Really
उस
sorry
stage
for
पे.
cutting you, Shaila, but what if the discrimination is systemic? What it's coming from power itself? What
it is
what if
not.
it's the government that's
I'll tell you
instilling?
why it is not systemic. In Pakistan, can you have a Hindu army general? Has Pakistan had a Hindu army general?
I don't think army general in general would be a very good idea. That would be a dictatorship, almost near to dictatorship. then.
No. So army there's a process of selection.
Yeah.
There are exams, and there are it's a meritocratic
Oh, okay.
system.
Right.
Pakistan, for example, has not had a Hindu army general, whereas India has had not one, not three, more than a few army generals who are Muslims. You've seen an IAS topper being Muslim. You've seen several toppers throughout, and even now, even now when we are talking about this shifting environment, I think last year rank 7 UPSC. He's a Kashmiri, Wasim. He was earlier an IAS, the IRS, then he became an IAS. The discrimination is not systemic. That means you are not excluded from the systems actually if you compete in those systems, but you have to get there. So for example, in UPSC, only graduates can apply. What is the graduation percentage in the Muslim community? It's 2.7%. So first, I'm not saying discrimination is not there. People just need an excuse. They will discriminate against you being a woman, being disabled. They will discriminate based on your accent, based on your dressing. There are all kinds of discrimination. I'm not denying that. But first we have to get there. Are we even in the competition is my question.
Right.
Are we even competing?
But how would you respond to the way government responds to Muslims? Like, I think in the past, even I think if you look back to the past week, we have had Muslim lynchings. We have had leaders from the government calling for killings of this particular community. How is that not systemic? How would that not affect the community?
That does affect the community. That also affects the government, and the government should take very strong note of it, because in a democracy, or rather in a republic, the sole right of violence lies with the government. So if lynchings are happening, it's not only Muslims' problem, it's also government's problem, because their power, their sort of sovereign right over violence is being taken away, and that's a decentralization of power in the hands of the mobs. So yes, the government should definitely look into that. But at the same time, we also have to build bridges, because we also have a stake in it. So it's like it's Muslims who are getting killed, right? So we also have a stake in building bridges with the community and also with the government, because the government is for everybody. Government needs to understand that. We also need to understand that. So if there is a parliamentary committee, if there are processes, we have to make our submissions on that. We have to, engage with the government. The government also has to engage with us.
Right, Shaila. Moving on, I think already in the introduction I had laid this, at foregrounded this, that people mostly know you as the Vice President of the Students'
That's
Union
right.
of JNU.
Yeah.
That's where we all saw you.
Yeah.
How did JNU mold you as a person? How did it shape your activist career? And later on, whatever career path you chose, how did it shape?
Very good question, because I come from Kashmir, where elections used to be a very nominal exercise, where some minor percentage of people would, mostly party activists, they would vote. Democracy was not a larger exercise. There was no student politics, etc. So this is how Kashmir was for the longest time, and we did not have any political expression. So I found my first sort of political expression in the university, and it also showed me how to make my arguments in a logical way, because as when we are young, we are just passionate, but you have to substantiate that passion with data, research, arguments, committee reports. So that's one thing. It showed me how to systematically substantiate my point of view or my arguments. It also like taught me how to research. So for example, this book, when I was doing the research for it, or when I was writing, obviously my sociological training that came into. So for example, role models, it's a sociological term basically, and this idea that community role models, they impact or they influence upward mobility. It's a sociological idea. It comes from the study of black communities in the US.
Right.
So there's this finding that if some people who become prosperous, they leave the black neighborhoods. Because of that, there is a lack of role models within the black neighborhoods, and that limits upward mobility.
Right.
So Muslim community needs to see people who are doing well, so that they also believe we can also do well. So that's the idea.
Shaila, back in JNU, was there any point that made you realize that probably this is not what I want to do? This is not where my ideology is leaning, and I want to break away from it, pursue something different. Has it ever happened? Because I think it was pretty public, the shift that happened.
So the shift is not sudden, because I was a union leader for 1 year, because because of that Lingdo committee rules and everything. You can be a student union vice president or a central committee member only for 1 year. So after that 1 year, you can't keep being a student leader till the age of 35. You have to find your voice in the political mainstream of the country, because being a student leader looks good only till the age of 28, 30 max. After that, you have to find your voice in the country. And you can't be preaching Marx and Lenin to the people. You have to speak in terms of constitution, in terms of real politic, in terms of what are the political questions that are, for example, terrorism. That's a very big challenge that we face in J&K. You talked about mob lynching, that is another issue. So my shift was gradual, and after I left the, student politics, I ran a very big campaign against mob lynching, which was a national level campaign, right? So I kept doing, things like that to slowly move outside of the university system. But once you move outside of the university system, you see that there are a lot of challenges for our country. I think it's that.
Sorry, Shaila, sorry for cutting you, but as you said that one has to then get with the mainstream. Does that mean that not all voices would find representation in the mainstream? It's ultimately the mainstream that overpowers everything else.
I do believe that individuals can influence, individuals have led massive change throughout history. If you talk about Nelson Mandela or Gandhi. But for that, you have to speak to the political concerns of everybody, right? In university, we talk about fee hike or hostel issues. But when you come into the mainstream, you have to encounter questions in the mainstream. So, of course, you can make your contribution, but usme koi jalbazi, I think we were too impatient, we were too young. But you have to realize that it's a country of 1 billion people.
Right.
So if you are aspiring to lead them, and of course, as a Kashmiri Muslim, why not? I should aspire. I can even aspire to become the Prime Minister. But then I have to speak to the concerns of the 1 billion people.
Right. My last question for you, Shaila, which would bring you closer home. Kashmir is going to witness its first ever assembly elections in over a decade.
Right.
As a former activist and as a Kashmiri, what are your aspirations for Kashmir? What changes would you like to see over there, regardless of whichever party forms the government?
Right. So the biggest challenge for Kashmir is going to be economic reconstruction. Right. Because we've had all of that chapter is closed, 370, everything, sab kuch ho gaya. But now we need a new plan for economic reconstruction, where we talk about employment, not just talk about. We have to draw up a plan for how, and I'm working to that effect. It's not that I'm just talking about it, because what I've realized over the years is that I need to actually do things and not just preach. So for example, I'm working on skill development. So I'm working to impart future ready skills like AI, generative AI, other computer based skills to youth in Kashmir, because we can have an import of services. There is a huge stress on land. you can't just have like Gurgaon-like development, or you can't have Jharkhand-like development because of several reasons. But there is no limit on the export of services that we can do. So that's my sort of economic theory of change, you can say, that we have to empower skills, youth with the skills, where they can export their services and bring in GDP to the country and also empower themselves.
Right. I think we all would be really glued to what happens in Kashmir next, and we would want the best for the valley. With this, viewers, we near the end of the show. Viewers might have agreements or disagreements with the questions raised or the answers given, but what remains important is to ask questions and have open discussions. Thank you so much, Shaila,
Thank
for
you so
joining
much,
us
Shreya.
for this conversation. Thank you, viewers, for joining us. This is Shreya Kaul, your host, signing off. Till then, spill the truth, curb the lies, and hold accountability high. Thank you.